What's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports, and we are your home for Los Angeles Rams content. We are officially for the Rams in the offseason. Still got the Super Bowl. I don't know if anyone's really that pumped about it, with it being Chiefs and Eagles. Those are probably two of the teams outside of those cities that people would least like to watch in the Super Bowl of the 14 teams that made the playoffs. But it's still a Super Bowl. Everyone will watch it, I'm sure. But yeah, definitely tired of the Chiefs being in it. But anyway, Rams hopefully will be in it next year. But we got some fun free agency talk we're going to get into today. We're going to start doing kind of position by position free agent wish lists, if you will, if you want to call it that. And also some Kyren Williams talk after Snead met with the media about potential extension for one Kyren Williams. But first and foremost, the man, not the myth, but the legend, Skinny T. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm having I'm having plumbing problems, is what I meant to say. Which is
like personal, like with your body?
No. There is a water main being repaired in my front yard as we speak, so I have no water, which means I haven't brushed my teeth. I haven't taken a shower.
Oh, you still have it? I told you you can use my shower anytime, my friend.
I appreciate it. I might head over after my shift at work here is over, but yeah, never fun at all. I think, coming off of that NFC Championship game where the refs were about to award the Washington Commanders points award the Eagles points for the Commanders chicanery. I think there should be a rule that if you win your third Super Bowl, head coach and quarterback have to retire. I think that's a perfect way to solve that problem.
I would like that. It's crazy. When you look at other sports, like just on the surface, I've always said, and obviously I love it for many other reasons, but I've always said like one of the reasons I love the NFL is because of the parity the league has with the salary cap, how important the draft is every year, how teams can turn things around so quickly. And I think a lot of that is true. But when you're really like in reality, in terms of just Super Bowl winners, I mean, there's really not a lot of parity. I mean, it was the Patriots in it almost every year, and Brady winning it, 6 times with the Patriots, once with the Bucks. And then now, since Brady's gone, the Chiefs have been in it. This will be their 5th time in 6 years, or something like that, or 4th time in 5 years.
Yep.
So there's really not, and even when you take out Brady and Mahomes, there's only like 3 other quarterbacks that have won it or something, right? Like 2 maybe. Manning and.
Well. In the last, I don't remember exactly how, but Foles and Stafford.
That's right.
Are the only other ones to win it, and that goes back to the Super Bowl with Eagles before the Eagles Super Bowl. I guess it was
because the Patriots won it before that,
2016. So
when they beat because the Broncos won 2015, which would have been Manning.
Yep.
So it's probably literally been Manning, Brady, Mahomes, Foles, and Stafford are your 5 winners in a decade.
That's it.
Yeah. So still love it. But yeah, the parity is not quite as much as maybe advertised. I always have not hated, but I've always disliked baseball because of the spending. And obviously, we're here in LA, so we don't mind it with the Dodgers spending. But that's always been one of my gripes is you have these 4 or 5 teams that are just spending juggernauts while the rest don't do anything. But in reality, when you actually look at World Series winners, there's a lot more parity in baseball, surprisingly, than the NFL. So I was literally just this morning thinking about that when I woke up. Kind of a weird thought when you think about it.
Yeah, it's super strange, and repeats and three-peats are super rare now. I mean, baseball, any sport really.
Well, it shows in the NFL how important the marriage between a coach and a quarterback is. When you look at the 2 dynasties now, because the Chiefs are a dynasty now, the thing in common between the Chiefs and the Patriots, and you can go even past dynasties, is you had a Hall of Fame world-class coach and a Hall of Fame world-class quarterback. That marriage, it's very rare that you can have one without the other and have a dynasty. You can win one here, one there with just one of those pieces, but to keep sustained excellence while everything around you changes, because in this league, there's a lot of forced changes. You've got to have that. And then the other piece, and then we'll get to Rams talk, but But we talked, when I was complaining and moaning last week about McVay and Chris Shula and whatnot, not getting the noms for Coach of the Year and Assistant Coach of the Year, and how I said, like, Andy Reid, like, yeah, he's great. Like, he is probably the best coach in football, but like, what adversity? Like, his coaches remain the same. Like, they hardly, outside of like an OC here and there, no, but it's his offense. But like, no defense guys get plucked, no special teams guys get plucked. You think about the Patriots dynasty too. Like, kind of similar, like guys would get plucked, be terrible, get fired, and go right back and end up back in New England. So like, he kind of had this like, 1 year someone gets promoted, and then the next year the other guy's back. I mean, Josh McDaniels is back again with the Patriots. Obviously he's not there, but that seems to be another thing for a dynasty, is your entire staff actually has to stay relatively intact. And so that's why I think it's so impressive. The Rams are so competitive year in and year out, because their staff is different every single year. And I'm not saying that's the sole reason why they haven't had this like dynastic run. But that is probably part of it. I mean, the common denominator between the Chiefs and the Eagles is Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame quarterback, and a pretty sustainable staff on all fronts.
Yeah. And furthermore, you look at the play callers, going back to the Eagles, they went to the Super Bowl with two fantastic play callers, Steichen and Gannon, skip a year, have a down year, and then bring Fangio and Kellen Moore in, and they're back. It goes to show you the play callers make a big difference. The margins are so thin. We were talking about this the other day about how, the parity among players, I feel like is narrow now. Like from the very best to, the league average, I think is pretty narrow. And yeah, that's the state.
Very narrow. We've talked about that. You got to have a lot of things go your way. Health is one of those. Yep. Last thing, I mean, it is leading up to the Super Bowl, so it's relevant. Like, does it surprise you that Nick Sirianni still kind of gets I mean, I feel like he's not considered a good coach by many around the league, and yet this is his second Super Bowl in 3 years. 3 years. He's been in the Super Bowl twice with a whole new set of coordinators all 3 years, because he's had to lost 2, promoted 2, and now hired 2 new ones. I mean, I think that's kind of impressive. Like, at some point, you got to say the guy's actually pretty good, right?
No, he is good. He's just a heel. He's like in wrestling, there's the baby face and there's the heel. Sean McVay is a baby face. Nobody's ever mad at Sean McVay.
No, of course
but
not.
Sirianni just has this way of getting under people's skin. He picks fights with his own fans. Yeah. He doesn't give
the Philly guy is perfect.
Client. Yeah, exactly. He's perfect for the Philly fans. He'll throw back at them, and it's a marriage made in heaven for sure.
Yeah, and they got Fangio, who's totally like a Philly guy. So anyway, before we get to Rams talk, finally, show, as always, brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag. You can do all of your Super Bowl wagering at BetOnline. The line right now, Chiefs are 1.5 favorites, so almost a pick 'em. 1.5. You're looking at that's a pretty close game, close margins. Money line, Chiefs minus 125. Philly plus 105, and the over-under 49.5. So all that can be done at BetOnline. They have all the best props. I always love, wagering on the over-under for the national anthem scheme. That's always fun. The Gatorade color that gets dumped on the winning team. That's always a fun one. All those props are like, you're just throwing money in the wind, hoping it sticks, because you're literally just guessing things. Whereas, not that necessarily sports betting is the same, but there's I feel like some knowledge behind some of that. It's still kind of luck, things have to go your way. But anyway, all that can be done. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Tell them the guys at the Rams Skinny sent you. All right, so we're talking beginning. I mean, it's crazy even thinking about free agency. The free agency doesn't actually open for almost a month and a half here in mid-March. But time to start thinking about that. And the Rams have a lot of important positions to look at when kind of not even rebuilding, just kind of, and not even retooling, just maybe adding to this roster that already made it to a divisional round and now just, pushing themselves further. You think back to that 2017 season, Rams went to the divisional round, lost. Very next year went to the Super Bowl. So hopefully this is a case they can do that as well in this rendition, is get to the Super Bowl next year. And, we look at the running back position, Skinny. And before we even look at free agent running backs out there to add, because Kyren Williams is still under contract this year. We're talking extension, not re-signing. He still is on his rookie deal. But I think there's a potential to maybe add to that room. Obviously they have Blake Corum, but Ronnie Rivers, do you want to have upgrade that or whatnot. But let's just start with Kyren Williams, the conversation around the extension. Les Snead was asked about that. Do you have the quote in front of you, or do you want me to pull it up?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I don't have that. McVay also talked about it, and he said he's a Ram, which is language we have heard before.
Yeah.
So
I have it in front of me. So Les Snead would asked basically about Kyren Williams' extension. She said, "I think an extension is something that's going to be on the plate. Williams would be someone that after 3 years you could begin discussing, let's call it renegotiating, starting anew, because I do think Kyren is someone who is a Ram and has a very impactful role for us." I don't know if I put a whole lot of stock in that. That's pretty basic language around yeah, he's under contract. We like him. We'd love to see him stay. There's not a lot to it. But did you take anything away from that?
I mean, you can't really. I mean, I do like him voicing a commitment. It bodes well in his favor that Sean McVay is also echoing the similar language that Sean McVay or that Les Snead is using. So, it seems like everybody's on the same page with what he brings to the offense, who he is as a person and as a player. All of that stuff is great, but I bring up the language that's been used before in reference to Ernest Jones, who was the communicator, the green dot wearer, the vocal leader, as Quentin Lake told us at Radio Row last year. He was all of those things to this team, and they were able to just move on from him before the season without really even blinking an eye, it seems like.
Yeah.
It seems like they had a number in their head and he wanted to go over that. So, do I think that this statement guarantees Kyren Williams will be back? Absolutely not. I don't think that at all. They drafted Blake Corum specifically as his successor. So, whether he gets traded or doesn't get offered a second contract, I would hate to see that because I do love this player. I love the way he plays the game. But it's, this is the Rams. They don't re-sign many rookie free agents going for their second contract. They don't, they're not afraid to cut ties with guys like Ernest Jones, Robert Woods. They're willing to let that sting happen. And, they have a clear, the Rams always have a clear idea of what they want and what they can achieve. So, I think right now, Jared Goff is our quarterback. I think right now, Kyren Williams is the running back. And if he goes up over that number and isn't willing necessarily to meet the negotiation where they want it, he won't be a Ram.
Yeah. And, you kind of have to look at, I think the Rams and specifically are one of the most ever-changing, evolving organizations in the NFL. And so I think they're always kind of changing the way they view things. But there is some history you can look at and kind of get a glimpse of what the future holds, or at least an idea of kind of the thought process. And they haven't extended a running back. You mentioned the rookies in general. They really don't. If people really think about it, there's not many rookies that get their second contract with this team. I mean, we talked about, was it the 2020 class? That not a single one is left on this roster. Yeah. And that's just 4 drafts ago. Not a single, I mean, that they were up, for extensions this year. The 21 class is looking, I mean, if we'll see who is back from that class even. And at running back specifically, they haven't re-signed one since Todd Gurley. That was in 2018. That was the last running back extension that they've really, outside of maybe bringing back Ronnie Rivers on a really minor deal, but extending a starting running back hasn't been since that $60 million extension with Todd Gurley back in 2018. And we obviously know how that did not work out. And so I don't know if there was so much buyer's remorse in that, and that their thought process ever since then, because the way they've done things, Skinny, ever since then was draft and replace. Basically, you draft a running back, you let his contract run out, you had drafted his successor a previous year or two, they take over, so on and so forth. You can see it with Darrell Henderson. Cam Akers wasn't even here that long, but obviously he was replaced by Kyren Williams. Blake Corum was drafted last year. Is he going to be the one replacing? So this has nothing to do with us not wanting them to re-sign Kyren Williams. And again, he's under contract for another year, so nothing should change it, you would think. We'll see with Ernest Jones, as you brought up. But just based on their track record over the last kind of 5-6 handful of years, it looks like that would not be the case, because they would allocate that money for their positions. They have quorum. They'll probably draft another running back this year. I think they draft running back almost every year, every other year. And so that would behoove them to kind of draft another one this year. And they kind of just have their succession plan in place, and Kyren Williams would hit free agency. So before we move on, let me ask you this. Should they change their philosophy and re-sign Kyren Williams? Or do you think their philosophy of how they've handled running backs actually is probably the way that they should continue going?
Yeah, well, Joe Noteboom was the last rookie to get extended from 2018.
Yeah.
So it goes back that far.
And that didn't work out either.
Yeah. I mean, Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, those guys worked out, but different era. I mean, wow, thinking back that far. Wow. Different world.
So, I mean, and not to cut, sorry to cut you, in reality, like, if you're looking at not like dating back to just last year, like obviously the 22 class or the 23 class and the 24 class phenomenal. We're not talking about them, but of the ones coming up for extensions, like when you really think about it, I mean, it's probably Kyren Williams is the only one that might.
From the 22 class?
And later, yeah. Well, I mean, 2020 is already gone, obviously, but.
Yeah, no, you're right. Just looking at the list, I mean, Logan Bruss, I think he's gone. Cobie Durant, Quentin Lake, I mean, those guys are probably both gone as well. But
yeah, maybe back. I would like to, but yeah, you never know.
It's so hard. It's so hard to have this conversation just because, but they don't do it, and that's what we were talking about. In terms of the philosophy, though, I think it is the prevailing wisdom within the league to cut ties with running backs, not draft them highly, not overpay them. That's what it has been. Then you have like a Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. We didn't get to see Christian McCaffrey much this year, but that's a different level of player than Kyren Williams is.
Mm-hmm.
I love that he can pick up 5 when he's supposed to get 3, 6 when he's supposed to get 5. Sometimes he can bust open for 12. But is he a guy that is changing the math for the offense? You look at the season, it's hard to say no. It's hard to say. You go back to 2023, and it's hard to say that Kyren Williams didn't single-handedly change the Rams' fate in that season, put them into the playoffs. He's put up a bunch of yards.
Yeah.
And his shortcomings, I don't feel like are necessarily his fault. I've mentioned several times he's used a ton in pass protection, which takes him out of passing plays at a really big clip. That's not on him. You got to get some offensive linemen that can protect. So yeah, I mean, I would have a hard time moving on from him just because he does all of the things, everything that he's been asked to do. He's done really well. He's gotten better as a pass protector as well with all that experience and practice in there. So, I mean, I think, and I think the prevailing, what I was saying about the Saquon Barkley and the Derrick Henry of it all is like, the prevailing wisdom about the running game is changing, and running backs, it's changing a bit, the big question is, do the Rams view him the same way that I do, which is he was their second best offensive weapon last year with Cooper Kupp on a down year. Puka Nacua number 1, obviously. They didn't have Higbee in there. So, I mean, he pulled up a lot of slack, and I'm now having flashbacks to how I talked about Ernest Jones on the defense, about the guy that did it all. He could rush the passer. He was, good against the run, pretty good in coverage. He's, if not in the top tier of linebackers, tier down from there. And they didn't view him as that. They cut ties with him. So they may adhere to their philosophy more than I would.
This is such a hard conversation because
it's emotional.
Yeah, I mean, I would, and this has nothing to do with, is Kyren Williams a good running back? I think that's an unequivocal yes. Like, he is you could argue maybe great running back. But when you're looking at how you work the salary cap, and especially how the Rams work the salary cap. Is he generational in the sense of where you're willing to allocate top 6 of your salary cap to the running back position, one player, not just the room? And when you look at someone like a Saquon Barkley or a Derrick Henry, like you mentioned, I think people could say, yeah, they're kind of generational. Like they truly can take. I mean, just ask Rams fans what Saquon did to them in that game. And there's small little differences because there's so much that Kyren Williams does so good, so good. But does he do anything great where you're like, we cannot not have that, like that? And the fact that the Giants said that about Saquon Barkley, like I think that shows what the Eagles found him. Now, there's a lot of nuances to go into great running backs too, because the Eagles have like the best offensive line in all of football. Like that's a huge help too when you're getting gaping holes. But with Kyren, the one thing, and our good buddy Sosa Kremenjas tweeted this out. I've seen others kind of talk about this at the end of the season, kind of comparing him to, you know, a Jamar Gibbs and some of these other backs that have that like next gear speed. Because I think as a true running back, like you don't have to necessarily have, you know, Usain Bolt like speed, but if you're going to be that generational back that can truly take over games, like you have to have that other gear to where you're scoring, because if you don't get to that next level and score, you potentially just don't score. It's not like, okay, great, 30-yard gain, then we can go get the job done. And specifically talking about Kyren Williams in the Eagle game, and I can't remember the exact, if it was the second quarter or third quarter, but there was a play. He broke through the line, basically had daylight. It was the 30-yard going in, had daylight to the end zone. Should have been a touchdown if like he had that true break, that Saquon speed or that Jahmyr Gibbs speed. Touchdown, gone. He ended up getting caught on like the 7-yard line or so. And then the Rams, I can't remember exactly, but they had a fumble in there. They got sacked. They ended up having to settle for 3 points. Didn't get a touchdown out of that. You know, you end up obviously losing the game. So there's little moments like that where you do so much good, but is there that one thing you do great that we can't live without? And seeing how the Rams operate, I don't know if they'll feel that way. But to your point, I mean, he's involved in 85% of offensive snaps. Like, do they think another running back can even give them that longevity? I mean, the dude averaged 23. I need to look at the actual numbers, but it felt like 23 to 25 carries a game, which the McVay era after Todd Gurley, they haven't had a running back do that. And so I don't know. I think he's worth bringing back depending on the deal, and then see what you have in Blake Corum in terms of how much juice he gives you in speed. Because I think Corum is a little bit faster, has that little bit breakaway speed we saw at Michigan. So I don't know. It's really hard, but it also is like, what's his market going to be? Like, is he going to be a guy that, okay, yeah, well, I mean, if you can extend him for like a 4-year, $36 million deal, what is that, $8 to $9 million a year? Like, yeah, I think that's a no brainer. Is he going to be asking for 12 or 13 million? Then I don't think he does anything great to where you can give him that top 3 running back money. But I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now.
Well, I tell you what, you know who makes more money than Kyren Williams? Just about every running back in the league.
Yeah.
So, Blake Corum makes more than him. Ronnie Rivers almost makes as much as Kyren Williams. I was just looking at the contracts. You know, $8 million a year would put him equal with what Derrick Henry's average year is as well. So I think he should be satisfied with something like that. But, you know, you look at, you know, you're talking about the free market, what he brings to, you know, what his market will be. I mean, there's going to be a team out there that likes what they see out of him. He's put up a ton of yards. There's plenty of teams that will talk themselves out of a guy like him. But I think there is a market for his skill set, and I think he's going to be looking to, originally I was thinking, this guy's a Ram. He's got that kind of Cooper Kupp thing. He's maybe kind of guy that would give the team a discount. But after making $900,000 a year, I think he's going to, and putting up, a bunch of good stats, and, the way he runs, I mean, like, he's put his body on the line. So I think he's going to be looking to get paid. And I think it's probably going to end up in that $8 million range. And there's a whole conversation we need to have about what kind of cap space is available. They have a fair amount, somewhere in the $44-46 million range now, before restructuring Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, Rob Havenstein, possibly Matt Stafford, something happening on Jonah Jackson, I'm sure. So there's plenty of room to create more cap space in there. So, I mean, we could be looking at a whole different Rams team from a philosophy perspective, because they've often ran on a very skint salary cap. So, this could be a very different looking year.
Yeah. Well, and just looking at market value. So you would typically, like, I'm guessing his agent will be like, all right, well, we're going to go based on where you finish statistically, like within other running backs. And so this year he was third in rushing yards behind Barkley and Henry. Was he third also last year? I know he was top 5.
Second or third.
And he missed 4 games or whatever.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you put McCaffrey's 1 right now making $19 million a year. Jonathan Taylor's 2 making $14 million, and Barkley is 3 making $12.5 million. Kamara's making $12.2, Josh Jacobs $12 million. So I look at that, and just from an agent perspective, they're probably going to be coming to the table wanting $12 million. Over 10 for sure. And I do not know if the Rams will give him that much. I can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think 10 is actually 10 is probably a good, fair landing spot.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll see if they're able to meet that.
Yeah. I think he deserves it. I think he should. So I want to be clear on that. I would like them to re-sign him to a deal. I was more just talking this whole time in like the philosophy of how the Rams do. And the fact you brought up a perfect point, like off air, they drafted Blake Corum, and the conversation was like, oh, he's going to be just an extension of Kyren. So when whoever's on the field, we get the same style running back. When if you dig a little deeper, they're kind of just drafting his replacement, the exact guy that can do exactly what he does. And now that when the contract's up, cool, you're really not losing Kyren Williams because you drafted Kyren Williams 2.0 kind of thing. So it's like, there's that thought process too of like, well, they didn't get a compliment back because they got the replacement back in reality.
Yeah, it's so true. And when we were going into that draft, we were both kind of pointing towards the thunder and the lightning of it all, where we recognized that Kyren Williams was the short yardage guy, really great at that kind of thing, always falling forward. That's everything. He's everything you want in that kind of guy. But they were lacking that kind of Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, if you want to bring that into it, that guy that can just at any point in the game, you got to be worried that he's going to bust a 70-yard run, 30-yard run, and a truly explosive play, because that's what McVay loves. He loves those explosive plays. That's why he's always itching to throw the ball, is because you can pick up 40 yards on one passing play. To do that on a running play is much more rare. And is Kyren Williams that guy? No, he's not that guy, which is fine. Yeah. It's not an indictment. We don't all do it all.
Yeah.
But is he worth 10 million and he can't, and he's not the explosive play threat that maybe they want or wish they had?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the tough conversation. Is like, is he great at anything? He's extremely good at everything.
I think he's great at picking up 5 yards on first or second down.
Can others do that though for a fraction of the cost?
Corum can, I'm sure.
That's and I'm not disagreeing with you. But if your greatest asset is something that someone can do almost as good for $9 million less a year.
But nobody else did it as well, or has done it as well.
Yeah.
Those guys that he was behind, those are different kinds of backs. I mean, Derrick Henry and stand side by side, Derrick Henry and Blake and Kyren Williams.
Yeah.
Those are different guys.
Yes. Different. Yeah. Very different. Different species almost. The size difference is unreal.
Yeah. I stood next to both of them.
Yeah.
I felt unhuman next to one. I felt very human next to the other.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Hopefully they figure something out that he can stay. Cause I think aside from just the play on the field, I think he's a really glue guy, locker room guy. Something we talked about when he first started kind of taking reps from Cam Akers And why we loved him is, and we remember, I can't remember if we talked to him or just kind of overheard, but when we were at OTAs, and one thing that stood out to me was him being like, I want to do whatever Coach McVay tells me to do. Like, he didn't have, like, I don't care if I get 20 carries. I don't care if I get 20 catches. I don't care if I have 20 blocks. Like, whatever Coach McVay wants, like, I'm the running back that's going to do that. And so I think there's that kind of intangible that you can't really put a price on, but not a lot of guys are like that. Especially the elite guys are like, no, I need my 20 carries. I need this. Receivers are more so the prima donnas. But the Rams have built a culture that obviously does not deal with that, right? Like, you're a part of the team. It's this we, not me kind of situation, and whatever's better the team. And Kyren fits that so well. So hopefully that'll be an intangible that kind of gets something done, that they realize, like what you're saying, like, yeah, like, you are great at getting the 5 yards. Can we find someone cheaper that's pretty damn close? Probably. But is their personality and their work ethic and their drive going to fit with this team as much as you have? Probably not. I mean, you don't find that every day. So we'll see. Luckily, hopefully, no matter what, we have another year of this. But as we saw with Ernest Jones, I don't know. If his agent comes asking for $12 million, we may see him traded before his contract expires.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk some running backs, some free agent running backs that they might be able to target if everything goes south.
We were going to do both running backs and linebackers. I think now we can just push linebackers to next episode. We got plenty of Kyren talk, so let's just stick with this whole episode being running backs.
I think that's a great idea.
So right now, unless you were thinking otherwise when we were prepping, looking at free agents, we're under the indication that they are obviously having Blake Corum and Kyren Williams on the roster for 25. Yes. So we're basically just looking at additions to those two.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because then obviously we're not going to be going after, some of these big name ones like Aaron Jones. If you're not going to go sign Aaron Jones with both Kyren Williams and, unless you're doing this crazy all-in approach where, Williams and Corum are still under rookie deals. Maybe you do go splurge, but anyway, I'll stop talking. Who are you kind of looking at free agent running back wise right now?
So the one I've keyed in on is J.K. Dobbins, who played last year for the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, he's been hurt just about every year of his career, including this last one. He missed a few games with a lower body injury. I believe it was a knee or ankle. But, in terms of, what we were talking about of complement, a guy that can break a big run from time to time, J.K. Dobbins, I think, is probably top of the list. He's got that explosiveness. Early in the season, before he had a whole bunch of wear and tear on his body, he was doing that like every other game, breaking these big yardage plays. Is another team going to take the kind of risk that the Chargers were willing to take on a 1-year flyer on a guy that, played for Greg Roman in Baltimore? Obviously Greg Roman liked him as a prospect. That's why they drafted him when they did. But I think they could get him for a pretty good price, and he would provide them with just kind of a nice jumping off point, complement for Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, and then you just have this guy in there that can really break it open.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice fit. I think the Chargers will definitely probably try to bring him back, but I certainly for the value. And, like you said, injury history, but luckily you have, Kyren, who's been healthy this year, and Blake Corum hopefully will get back from his injury, ironically enough, but had a healthy college career for the most part. So I could certainly see that being as a good one. Some other, we'll just say too, like Ronnie Rivers, I think they would probably like to bring back for a cheap deal. I think they liked their running back room as it stood. So if they are able to just to bring him back and run it back with those same three, I can see that happening. If you're looking at finding a true complement to what, both Corum and Williams do. I think you can look at guys like Alexander Madison, free agent. I think he gives you some juice and some speed. Even Amir Abdullah, both of those were on the Raiders. They're both free agents. I think both can give you a little bit of speed to that back end that maybe you don't have, which is your top two guys. And then the other name that I was going to throw out, I had it right in front of me, and then of course I lost it. Oh, Kenneth Gainwell, I think, is an interesting one from Philly, who obviously played behind Saquon Barkley, will be a free agent, but he's definitely that speedier back that can give you that kind of elusiveness that you might not have the same breakaway speed. But if you're signing a what's hard with running back is if you're signing, because typically you only have one back. Like every now and then you're running like a 22 personnel or like a two back system, but it's very rarely. And so because you only have one back, if you have this Kyren Williams, Blake Corum do it all, and you go get like a speed guy, it tips your hand a little bit of what your play calling is. Now, it doesn't mean you're just automatically running to him. Like it still could be a pass play, but it does alleviate some of the deception if you have a guy. That's what makes someone like Saquon or like Derrick Henry or like Christian McCaffrey so elite, because they truly can do it all with the speed as well. Why Kyren Williams has been so good too, because he can do it all. And so there's no kind of tipping of the hand, the defense of what could be coming. Whereas if you trot out a Kenneth Gainwell or whatever out there, you're like, okay, they're either passing or this is like a speed option kind of play kind of thing. So, but yeah, some names.
Going in a completely different direction. This one might be fun. Probably not going to happen. I might want to see it. Patrick Ricard, fullback, to pair with Kyren Williams. Going full into it.
Full lunch pail.
Complete lunch pail. Full lunch pail with the soup and the sandwich and everything. You got it all in there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do that, go get A.J. Dillon also. Coming off injury, but he's got tree trunks, and then just have some beefy dudes.
I've always been a big fan of AJ Dillon. When he and Aaron Jones were together, that was a really good combination.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I mean, it was really, when you think of perfect compliments, like those two were it. That was a really good compliment, having those two guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at this list, and you brought it up. I'm thinking, who's the best pass catching back that is a free agent for this running back class? Do you have any radar on that right now? I mean, there's definitely speedy guys in here. Jeff Wilson, that's another guy that would be interesting. Jermichael Hasty, these are speedy guys. Amir Abdullah getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I think Cam Akers is a free agent.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. But do you have any read on the pass catching backs? Because that's something that we've always wanted to see.
Yeah, of course. What a wild arc that'd be for Cam Akers, going from the Rams to the Vikings to the Texans, back to the Vikings, and then back to the Rams. That would be quite the arc story. But no, I think Nyheim Hines is a really good pass catching back, getting a little older, 29 now as a running back his whole, but that was his role with Indy back when he was with the Colts. He was the pass catching back. And so I think he's one that can bring that dimension to that. Chase Edmonds a little bit, who's with the Bucks now. Obviously the Rams fans probably know him of his time with Arizona. Littler guy, but can pass catch and definitely has some speed there too. So I don't know if there's one like elite pass catching back that's they would get you like, cheap, high value.
How about this though? I mean, we're looking at a 1 to 2 year window right now with Stafford. What if they do end up clearing a whole bunch of space with Kupp and Stafford and the rest, and they go after a guy like Aaron Jones to recreate kind of that AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones complement. And he's got it all too. He's got the speed. He's got the big game ability, and he can catch the ball.
Yeah.
I mean go ahead.
You look at, we'll just say the big names for those that don't know. So Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, AJ Dillon, Nick Chubb. You could probably put Javonte Williams in that. Had a kind of tapered off since Sean Payton got there, but he's only 25 years old, former second round pick. So those are probably your 5 big names. And so to your point, 1 year left with Kyren under contract. So you're not spending a lot on running backs because you have 2 rookie contracts. If Stafford and everything gets worked out and he's back, that really gives you a 1 year, maybe 2 year window with Stafford. So yeah, I mean, do you go and get one of those big name guys? But then if that's the case, then Skinny, to me, that tips their hand. They're not extending Kyren, because if you needed to go and get a big name guy, an Aaron Jones or whatever, then why then after a year would you then extend Kyren if you're taking carries away from him to go spend on someone else? So I'm not saying they'll do that, but to me, there's the thought of like, yeah, go all in and stack the room. But if you think you need someone else and Kyren had too much carries to what you were able to be successful, then that's kind of telling me that they're like, okay, yeah, we're moving on from both guys at the end of 25.
Well, and I think there's an argument to be made for that. Would you as a as a Rams fan, you guys out there, would you take a Super Bowl or an extended Kyren Williams?
Yeah, exactly. There's no right answer. Well, I guess the right answer
is
the
right answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that they have a good amount of cap space. It'll be interesting to see what they do with picking up more draft picks. But this is the window. This is the window until they figure out what's happening at quarterback. There's no future, eventually they're probably going to figure it out or they're going to attempt to at the very least. There is no future. This is it. Stafford, McVay. This is what you're looking at for your championship window. So I don't mind it. I think Aaron Jones has moved up to the top of my list.
So let me then ask you this. To you, Aaron Jones is an upgrade over Kyren Williams.
I think he's a compliment to Kyren Williams.
Okay. So, and don't take this as me disagreeing or grilling you. I'm just more like,
no.
I want to hear your answer instead of me just talking the whole time. So to you, is it, we have not seen enough. Okay, how do I phrase it? So do you think Aaron Jones is a different enough back from Kyren to where like a true compliment? Or do you think it's because we didn't see enough from Blake Corum, it'll actually give them a 2-back system? Because last year it was all Kyren because we didn't see Blake Corum. Which do you kind of see more of, I guess?
I see it more as a compliment. I mean, I think Blake Corum didn't get on the field because of his performance issues. Probably, I'm guessing in pass protection.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess. That he wasn't ready to protect Stafford the way the Rams needed to, which was a lot. So I think that it's sort of like pairing Puka Nacua with Cooper Kupp. It's like it's good to have one. Having both opens things up incredibly. Now with those two, we didn't get to see it come to full fruition like we always wanted to see it. But, with the way running backs in the league right now are working, it works in their favor if they have two different guys back there that can do two different things. Now you might be tipping your hand, but, I think that with Aaron Jones, it doesn't tip anybody's hand. He's, you can. I would love to see some more 21 personnel sets from this team. That's why I bring up Patrick Ricard. I'd love to see 2 backs in the backfield, split one guy out, and you still have some protection. There's it's just an iteration of the offense that we haven't seen. Now, do I think that they're ready to make that shift to like 2-back sets? I don't know. But depending on what happens with Cooper Kupp, you lose that an element of the 11.5 personnel. Now there'll be movement in. I think there's going to be a lot of movement within the wide receiver room. It's not going to look identical to what it did last year for sure. So yeah, I think it's like bringing in Bobby Wagner when you already have Ernest Jones. It's like, why are we doing that? Now that was a terrible year to kind of observe the defense playing, but
yeah,
we're talking about winning a Super Bowl, that significantly enhances your chances.
Totally. Yeah, no, I totally agree. If it's me, and we're not to the draft yet, so I know we're going to break down the draft more, but if it's me, I'm not spending any money on running backs. I know that I asked you like, who would you sign? So I'm not trying to hijack what was possible, but I'm not signing anyone. What I'm doing is I'm doing whatever I can to draft Cam Skattebo at Arizona State. That dude is so dynamic and fun. No?
He's such a
like
college
Skowronek?
running back to me. He's such a college running back to me. I don't think he's going to be a great pro running back. I loved watching him. I only watched one game, and it was quite dynamic and heroic what he did in that game. Whatever the bowl game was they played
Against Texas.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they only have 6 draft picks, so that plays in. Like, are you going to use one of those on a running back? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see what they do with the draft. So, but for me, I'm saving my free agent money for whether it be off. I mean, and again, this is going to dictate so much what they do in free agency, what they do in the draft. But I just see when you look at, where they could get someone like a Cam Skowronek or a Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, or a Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, the 2 Ohio State pairing. Even if they wait till way later, and obviously, we cover USC here, and Woody Marks, I think, is an underrated back that's going to go up draft boards, and they'll have an opportunity to get him. And he was Woody Marks, you're talking pass catchers, Skinny T. Woody Marks set the NCAA record for 55 straight games with a catch for a running back. So you're talking about pass catchers in the backfield. Woody Marks gives you that. So to me, I'm thinking, do I want to spend? I think Aaron Jones at this point, at 30 years old, isn't going to demand a ton of money, but am I willing to spend 7-8 per year for Aaron Jones? Or do I keep my backs I have and go draft another rookie that can potentially be this extension if we don't want to sign Kyren and run it back with that? I would lean that way, but obviously we'll get way more to draft talk here the next month or two. But
when was the last time they brought on like a veteran running back?
I don't know if they ever have, at least not in LA that I can think of. I'm not thinking back to St. Louis, but since they've been in LA, I don't think they ever have. Because they when they moved here, Gurley was on the team, and ever since Gurley, it's just been draft, replace.
Wild.
Yeah.
Maybe this, we like to say whenever we think the Rams are going to do, they're for sure going to draft an offensive lineman here, and they just do the opposite.
Yeah.
They go
Except
get
last year. We were on last year in the draft. We actually called their first 2 picks. We went edge and tackle, defensive tackle, for the first and second round. So,
oh, nice.
We were finally right last year because that was the obvious thing.
That one was a no-brainer after not really doing anything in free agency there.
Yeah, that was a must. Yeah. That was you had no other choice at that point.
Hard not to be wrong on that one.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, I'd love to hear what everyone thinks. Comment below. Sign a running back, re-sign Kyren, extend Kyren, I should say, draft a running back. The running back position obviously is important in this McVay offense, but is it should be highlighted by Kyren Williams, or is it this kind of just committee replace? Love to hear you guys. Comment below. If you're on YouTube, Rams LAFB is YouTube. If you're not there, go hit that subscribe button. Rams LAFB. That certainly helps us out. We never transitioned, Skinny, to linebackers. So our next ad read that I didn't get to. So I guess we'll end the show with that. We are back partnered with Underdog Fantasy. This
is a good one. This is a good one, guys.
Yeah, Underdog Fantasy is the best. I use it all the time. Our good friend Sosa, as we mentioned earlier in the show, he works for Underdog Fantasy as the head of NFL content. Wow. So so much fun, though. It's super easy to do. Download the app. Go to underdogfantasy.com. It's a pick'em. It's a fantasy pick'em. They keep updating it. I think now you can do up to 8 players, but basically minimum 2. You add over under for different players, whether it's receiving yards, touchdowns, all that stuff. Tons of fun. You can win lots of cash. Use our promo code LAFB or click the link in the description, and you're going to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick with your first deposit. So huge benefits right there for signing up today. So Underdog Fantasy on your mobile device or underdogfantasy.com, promo code LAFB, or just click the link in the description below and sign up today, deposit, and you can get up to a $1,000 bonus cash and a free pick. Underdog Fantasy, tell them the guys at the LAFB Network sent you. Skinny, anything to add before we sign off?
You think Nick Caley's getting hired by the Patriots?
Well, and then the Buccaneer or whoever, the Jags, are also interviewing the Rams passing game coordinator. So
Nate Scheelhaase,
yeah, who's just an architect in the war room, basically.
They keep taking them away.
Keep trying. Hard to be a dynasty when you keep losing everyone. So we'll see. we'll let everyone know. So thank you all for hanging out with us. Let us know what your thoughts on the running back position is. At Ryan Dyer at LAFB, at RL Anderson LAFB is where you can find us on X or LAFB Network. Ram Skinny, anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, and everything can be found on LAFBnetwork.com. Everyone have a great couple days. Talk to you at the end of the week, and we'll talk. I promise we're going to talk linebackers end of the week. Skinny T's favorite position. Talk to you all then.